the Ida.
Awesome.
The Ida is a long cutting sword, most commonly used by the Yoruba people of West Africa. Their idolization of Ogun, the god of metal and war, led their blacksmiths to be among the most skilled in West Africa. With its leaf-shaped blade that could be single or double-edged, the Ida was a practical tool for both agriculture and hunting, as well as a deadly weapon on the battlefield. In combat, it was often laced with pepper or poison to paralyze enemies and ensure that the slash of the Ida left many dead in its wake. Deerhorn knives. Whoa. Deerhorn knives are distinctive double-bladed weapons used as an extension of the body to counter and disarm opponents. The knives are unique to the 19th century martial art form Bagwajang. Students of this discipline train with the weapon in both hands to master techniques in slashing and seizing. Easily concealed in traditional Chinese garb, these mighty knives can be swiftly brandished to catch an opponent off guard and deliver deadly cuts with four horn-shaped points. The weapons are notably employed in the film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. The cat's Bulger. Introduced during the Renaissance in the late 15th century, the cat's Bulger became the main sidearm for European soldiers known as Landsknechts. A dominant military force, these soldiers defended the Holy Roman Empire in times of unrest. Designed for close hand-to-hand combat, the cat's Bulger was often shorter than other broadswords, but quick and efficient in action. Soldiers wielded these weapons in deadly ambushes, using devious tactics to lure the enemy into fatal attacks. Its sturdy build and broad, sharp blade made it a powerful chopper, while its signature S-shaped guard was instrumental in defense. The Macraca. The Macraca is a sickle-shaped weapon with its cutting edge on the inside curve of the blade. It was notably used by the Azande tribe, a dangerous clan that invaded and conquered Central Africa in the early 1800s. With the help of the Macraca, they took no prisoners while defending their land and resources. The sword was often used in executions to remove limbs and decapitate intruders or enemies. The Azande's fatal and terrorizing use of the Macraca is highlighted in the game, The Deadliest Warrior. The Pinatas.
Okay.
Known as a chopping tool for both agriculture and combat, the Pinatas earned its place as a weapon of war in the southern Philippines during the 19th century. Its sharp, forward curved blade acted like an oversized meat cleaver and delivered deep, clean cuts, which made it ideal for executions. On the battlefield, warriors carrying a Pinatas would follow behind the front line to behead anyone unlucky enough to have survived the first wave of attacks. The Acrophina.
Kinda scared of it.
The Acrophina is a distinctive sword hailing from the Ashanti Kingdom of West Africa around the 10th century AD. Initially used as a weapon of warfare, Ashanti warriors brandished the sword in one or both hands to deliver heavy strikes in close quarters combat. The sword's curved blade and dumbbell-shaped hilt were embedded with symbolic designs known as a dinkra, evoking Ashanti principles like courage, valor, or heroism. Today, the Acrophina is a national symbol of the modern-day Ashanti city-state, carried by the king's royal emissaries at prestigious ceremonies. The Tall War. The Tall War was a lethal and fearsome combat weapon originating in the 1300s. Instrumental to the militia of the Mughal Empire, its curved blade was optimal in delivering repeated blows to human flesh without the danger of getting stuck in bone. The weapon also included a sharp spike attached to the pommel that could be used to strike down opponents in close-quarter combat. When off the battlefield, the Tall War was a sacred sword worn by Sikhs as an article of faith that symbolized their duty to defend the rights of those who were unjustly oppressed. The Ciniquadea. Developed in Italy during the Renaissance, the Ciniquadea gained popularity among civilian noblemen. This large, double-edged sword delivered lethal cuts in close-quarter attacks and was worn on the hip to be swiftly drawn in times of threatening encounters. Derived from the Italian word for the number 5, the name Ciniquadea represents the blade measuring 5 fingers wide at the base, which became an excellent canvas for intricate artwork. With functionality in mind, swordsmiths also include fullers to lighten the weight of this otherwise heavy sword. Although the Ciniquadea lost its popularity after the 16th century, it has recently made a comeback in the video game Assassin's Creed. That weapon is the Charret. The history of the Charret sword is deeply tied to the violent history of the Khyber Pass, which separates Afghanistan and Pakistan. The sharp single-edged blade was a key asset of the Afridi tribe. The Charret had devastating consequences for the Afridi's enemies because it could pierce through armor. The distinctive T shape of the spine gives extra strength to the Charret's razor-sharp blade. Is a Swordbreaker. Used by knights across 16th century Europe, the Swordbreaker is a unique dagger designed to render enemies defenseless on the battlefield. The weapon's sharp comb-like teeth could entrap and snap an opponent's sword in half, while its razor-sharp edge and tip were employed to deliver fatal slashes or stabs. The Swordbreaker was so versatile in its ability to disarm and counterattack, it became the standard sidearm of its day. Today, it's immortalized in the PlayStation game Sword Art Online, Hollow Fragment, where it's wielded by the character Philia. Zappazap.
Yes.
The Zappazap originated in the Democratic Republic of the Congo as a weapon of war and power. During close-quarter combat, it was a powerful chopper slicing through opponents with ease, while from a distance, the Zappazap was just as dangerous and could be hurled at the enemy, causing its sharpened blade to penetrate through flesh and bone. Although deadly, the weapon was also regarded as a symbol of prestige carried by chiefs in ceremonial displays. The crescent-shaped blade is often ornate with twisted bars and etchings of human faces that were symbolic of the chief's tribesmen. The Nambi Nulu. The Nambi Nulu is a ceremonial sword made by the Nambi tribe of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Featuring an ornate wooden hilt and an embellished scythe-shaped blade, this intimidating weapon was reputedly used around the late 19th century for the sacrificial beheading of tribal slaves. The razor-sharp outer edge of the hook was said to separate the victim's head from his neck in one swift fatal strike. Following the abolition of human sacrifice, the Nulu transitioned from executioner's weapon to an insignia of prestige carried at ceremonial dances.